Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Storytime. Today we are going to check out Where the Wild Things Are. Story and pictures by Maurice Sendak. Okay. Now, like we've been doing all along, we are going to go ahead at the end of the story and answer some who, what, and where questions. Okay, let's remember that a who is a person or an animal. What is an action or a thing. And finally, where is a place or a location. And the questions I want you to think about during the story as I'm reading are: who has yellow eyes and terrible teeth? What does Max ride in over the ocean? Where does Max find his supper? And the final question: who is king of the wild things? All right, so those are our 4 questions that I need you guys to think about while I'm going through the story. So here we go. Where the wild things are. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. Wow. Here he is. He's chasing the dog with a fork. So mischief, that's another word for kind of like misbehaving, being bad. Just not making the right choices. His mother called him Wild Thing. And Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. Wow. So there he is. In his suit, in his bedroom on his own, with no dinner. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew. Whoa, check that out, a forest. You guys ever had a forest grow in your room? I haven't. Nope. And it grew. All those leaves growing up there all over the ceiling and the walls. And grew until his ceiling hung with vines, and the walls became the world around him. Wow. That's pretty funky. And an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max. And he sailed off through night and day. There's the boat, and if you look right here at the front, it even has his name, Max, his own personal boat. So he sailed off through night and day and in and out of weeks and almost over a year. 365 days, 52 weeks, 12 months. Wow, that's a long time. So he sailed almost over a year to where the wild things are. Looks like there's one of the wild things now to greet Max. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. Woo! Those are some wild, wild things. Till Max said, "Be still." and tamed them with the magic trick of staring into their eyes. Come back to the story. Of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once, and they were frightened and called him the most wild thing of all. And made him king of the wild things. And now, cried Max, let the wild rumpus start. Wild rumpus. That must be like a celebration or a festival or like a dance. So there they are, rumpusing, dancing. If you look, it must be nighttime because there's the moon. Oh my gosh, now it's light. So now they're rumpusing, they're dancing, celebrating into the day. Oh, that they're still going. Man, those guys are going and going. Now stop, Max said, and sent the wild things off to bed without their supper. That sounds familiar. That's right. At the beginning of the story, he was sent off to bed without dinner. And Max, the king of all wild things, was lonely and wanted to be somewhere where someone loved him best of all. All those new friends he has, and he's lonely. And all around from far away across the world, oh, he smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. If you look, there he is. He's in his tent. He's lonely. But the wild things cried, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." The wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their terrible eyes and showed their terrible claws. But Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And sailed back over a year and in and out of weeks and through a day. Another year. 365 days, 52 weeks, 12 months. A whole another year has gone by. He's sailing away. And into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. Wow, he found his supper waiting. And it was still hot. That's interesting. So after 2 years of being away, he sailed 1 year to get to the place where the wild things are, and then he sailed a whole other year back to his room, and his dinner was still warm. Wonder how that could be. You know what? Maybe he had a dream. Maybe he dreamt all that. Could be. Could be. Fell asleep because he was tired from all that mischief downstairs, and maybe that's what happened. Who knows? Maybe it was real. Let's get into our questions. Okay. Who has yellow eyes and terrible teeth? Guys, remember the answer to that one? That was the wild things. They are the ones. Remember that? They roared their terrible roars and they had those claws. Whew, scary guys. What does Max ride in over the ocean? You guys remember that? What did he ride in? Was it a car? No, a car would sink. Motorcycle? No, that would sink too. Yeah, you're right. It was a boat. Remember that? We talked about the boat with his own personal name on there? Okay. Where does Max find his supper? Where did he find it? He found it back in his bedroom. Remember that? The very place he was sent when he was misbehaving. And then our final question, who is the king? Who is king of the wild things? Oh, his name came up how many times in that story? His name is Max. He is the king of the wild things. He tamed them by being able to stare into their eyes. He had his own personal boat, very mischievous, and his dinner was waiting for him when he returned. And it was hot. All right. So, we answered our who questions, our what questions, and our where questions. And if we remember, who, person or an animal, well, in the story, Max is a who, the wild things are, they're who's, Mom is a who, and even the dog he was chasing with the fork is also a who. Please, guys, let's not do that at home. Let's not chase our dear beloved pets with eating utensils. They could get hurt. A what? A what? It's an action or a thing. An action. Rumpus. Remember that wild rumpus, all the dancing? Yes, that is an action. Staring into their eyes, that was another action, so that's a what. Let's see, roaring, that's what the wild things did. That is also an action. And then a thing, the boat he sailed in, the boat is a thing. The forest that grew in his room is also a thing. And then where? Where is a place? Wow. Right there in the title of the story, where the wild things are. So the land of the wild things, that's a where. His bedroom is a where. Those are places. All right, my friends. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Where the Wild Things Are as much as I enjoyed reading it to you. All right? We will catch you next time for story time. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.